Salam, salam. Daniel Samir Siran here, also known as Solace121. And as promised last week, I'm coming to you with a video of my interpretation and commentary on the Dhammapada, specifically chapter 3, verses 42 and 43. And chapter 3 is titled The Mind. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to briefly recap just verses 40 and 41, and then I'll get to 42 and 43. That'll give you a good idea of what was discussed in the last video. And as well, I will link below in the description my video to the previous talk on chapter 3 of verses 40 and 41, which I'm going to read to recap. But I also have an in-depth discussion of verses 40 and 41. But for now, I'm just going to read them and then read 42 and 43, and then I'm going to get into my discussion of verses 42 and 43. So chapter 3, the mind, verse 40, goes like this. Knowing this body as a pot of clay, securing this mind as a citadel, one may fight Mara with wisdom's weapon. Guard what has been gained and be unattached. 41. Soon indeed, this body on the earth will lie, pitched aside without consciousness, like a useless chip of wood. 42. What a foe may do to a foe, or a hater to a hater, far worse than that the mind ill-held may do to him. 43. Not mother, father, nor even other kinsmen may do that good to him. Far better than that, the mind well held may do to him. Okay, so and as I discussed in my last video, this is poetry. So there's quite a lot of ways to interpret this. So this is only my one point of view at, Wednesday, the 26th of March of 2025. This is only my one point of view at this particular time. It can change, and one thing I like about the Dhammapada, especially that drives home, an idea that drives home for me, is that, and this is true with most poetry as well, most good poetry, but especially I get this idea when I'm reading the Dhammapada, is that even though these are written on paper and they're preserved in book format, in a physical artifact format that is unchanging, like this text doesn't change, right? We change. We the readers, the viewers, the enjoyers of, the witnesses of, whatever relationship you want to have with this text, we change. So today my interpretation might be one thing, and then tomorrow on Thursday or next week or a year from now, my interpretation, my relationships to this text might change because I'm changing. My relationships to the world, to other people, to other human beings, to the soil and root and sky, to what I'm eating, to all this is changing in flux. So I'm a completely changed individual, hopefully, a year from now or 2 years from now. And that's one thing I just want to preface this, what I'm about to get into, because that's one thing to me that makes poetry and written text so wonderful to establish a relationship with, is because I'm going to change probably in subtle ways between, like, in the interim, like the smaller short term. Like if I pick this up next week, I will have changed, my physical being. I will have shed a bunch of skin, made a bunch of dust, and that kind of thing. And then subtle changes in my mind and my efforts and everything. But maybe a year from now, or 2 weeks, or 3 weeks, or 4 weeks, and then a year from now, or 2 years from now, this text stays the same, but I'm changing throughout that whole process. So my relationship and my interpretations and how I relate to the text is going to change as well. So I just want you to keep that in mind, that what I'm saying right now is not necessarily written in stone. It just happens to be my point of view over the course of a few days that I've been thinking about this video, and then now when I'm at this video, interpreting the text for you. Okay? So again, 42 starts out, what a foe may do to a foe, or a hater to a hater, far worse than that, the mind ill-held may do to him. And there's also a subtext where what a foe may do to a foe. The commentary states that this can also be interpreted as what a thief may do to a thief. So what I want to do is take the first line and the last line of that stanza. What a foe may do to a foe, the mind ill held may do to him. So, and what a thief may do to a thief, the mind ill held may do to him. If we think about the relationship of a thief to a victim, that's not necessarily a circular relationship. It's basically a linear relationship where the thief goes to the victim and steals from the victim and then returns the stolen goods to their place of being, and takes ownership, air quotes, ownership of the stolen goods. That's a linear relationship. But a thief to a thief now, that's a circular relationship, because a thief is going to steal from a thief, and then the thief is going to steal from the other thief. So it's like it's this back and forth of where is the ending of this thievery, of this stealing, because the thief knows how the thief thinks. So thief one knows how a thief two thinks, and how they act, and how they're going to behave, and how they relate to one another. They're relating to one another as the same thing, which is a thief. What a foe may do to a foe, this is similar to, like you've heard in the Bible, wars and rumors of wars, where the original war may have started thousands of years ago with the ancestors of the ancestors of the ancestors, and the ones who are currently fighting the war might not know even the reason behind why the war started many, many, many years ago, but they just know that, my people hate your people, kind of thing, or my neighborhood hates your neighborhood, or I heard from my neighborhood that somebody in, Yala 1942 shot somebody here, and now we're at war in 2003 type of thing. So what a foe may do to a foe, the mind ill held may do to him. So that's a metaphor, but it's a metaphor based in the concrete. What a foe may do to a foe, and what a thief may do to a thief. Like, have a specific idea of what a foe may do to a foe is basically they're at war all the time. They're sworn enemies. They're stealing from one another left and right, and there's no really end to it. It's a circular type of thing. So what a foe may do to a foe, or what a thief may do to a thief, the mind ill held may do to him. So now take that metaphor of what a foe and a foe may do to one another, a thief and a thief may do to one another, and use that as a metaphor to approach this topic now of the mind. The mind ill held. So it's not only the mind, it's what the mind ill held may do to him. And that ill held is important detail as well, because if you go back to my last video, and I'll just briefly rewind here, in verse 40, verse 40, knowing this body as a pot of clay. So we're still continuing that metaphor here now on verse 42, where he says the mind ill held. Think of a pot of clay now, continue that metaphor. And I do encourage you to go back and watch my previous video on verses 40 and 41. But for now, let's just carry that metaphor from verse 40, a pot of clay. Continue to this line, the last line of 42. The mind ill held may do to him what a foe may do to a foe. So we're kind of combining all these three lines now. And a mind ill held, let's take the metaphor of a pot of clay. What is a pot of clay ill held? Well, it's gonna be shaking. It's gonna be on maybe a surface that's shaking. It's gonna be in a hand that's shaking, or it's not gonna be able to be held safely. It's ill held, as it's not gonna be safe. It's not gonna be protected. And what is a pot of clay that's ill held? That's on a shaky surface, let's say. It will break. It will fall from the surface, and it will break. Just as a mind ill held may do to him, which him is he who has possession of the mind ill held, which is basically you, the reader. Also, you can substitute yourself, the reader, into this hymn. Okay, so this is a lot. This is jam-packed with a lot of meaning, a lot of action, a lot of doors to open and walk through and find, a place to develop the meaning for ourselves. So for me, what a foe may do to a foe, or what a thief may do to a thief, according to the commentary, or a hater may do to a hater, far worse than that, the mind ill held may do to him. So, okay, we started with the first line and the last line, where there's a connection there. But now combining the second and third line, what a foe may do to a foe, that's what line 1. Line 2, or a hater to a hater, line 3. Far worse than that, the mind ill held may do to him. So far worse than what another warring tribe will do to a warring tribe, let's say, or an enemy to an enemy. Far worse than that, or a hater to a hater. Far worse than that, the mind ill held may do to him. So the Buddha is really putting emphasis on, by way of negation, right? He's saying the mind ill held may do worse damage to you than a foe to a foe or a hater to a hater. But also conversely, because he said that, a mind held good and goodness can do. Let's just take that. What can a mind held in goodness do? Now we're going to go to 43. Not mother, father, or even other kinsmen may do that good to him. Far better than that, the mind well held may do to him. So we're basically given two poles, right? A polarity where a mind ill held and a mind well held. And far worse than what a hater can do to a hater, or a foe to a foe, the mind ill held can do to him. Let's just think about that for a minute. Like, what's a way to what's a way that a mind could be ill held? Well, one, it's focused on hatred and not love. It's focused on fear. Those two things right there, that I can just stop the list right there. Hatred and fear will make a mind ill held. And I mean, there's many, I don't need to really get into too many details as far as what it looks like manifested, hatred and fear. But you can go look on your favorite news website, or pick up a newspaper and look at the front page and a few pages. And I guarantee you, you're going to be remiss to look too far. You won't have to look too far to find examples of minds ill held with hatred and fear. Okay, and then you look at the way the news cycle in general works. You look at the systems of control that we find ourselves within as human beings, and these systems that attempt to dehumanize us, okay? These are systems that are generated and powered by hatred and fear, largely, that they propagate hatred and fear so that people soak up the hatred and fear. And then their minds are ill held so that people's minds are going haywire all the time, or enough times to have them in an ill held mind where they're damaging themselves and then damaging those around them as well. Okay, that's a mind ill held. But now he concludes this chapter 3 with the positive example. Not mother, father, or even other kinsmen may do that good to him. Far better than that, the mind well held may do to him. So still continuing that metaphor with a pot of clay now. What does a pot of clay that's well held do? Well, let's just think of a pot of clay. It carries soup. It could carry soup. So if it's well held, it keeps the soup in the pot of clay. It's safe. The soup is safe. The soup isn't going to spill over, or the pot of clay is not going to crack or be damaged or fall from the surface, because it's well held. So the soup, which is sustenance, can be brought to yourself, and you can take in the sustenance. You can enjoy the soup. Okay, so the pot of clay, aka the mind, is well held. You can intake the sustenance. You can enjoy the sustenance. You can enjoy the soup in a way that is not damaging to you, but in a way that is sustaining to you. And what is the soup a metaphor of? If the pot of clay is a metaphor for the mind, what sustains the mind? What can you put into your mind that can enliven your mind, that can enlighten your mind, that can make yourself feel lighter in terms of you don't feel a weight on your shoulders, and also in terms of you do emit light. When you put good things into the mind, your mind literally emits light and emanates light, and you become a vessel for shining light. Okay, that's what that is what is meant by your aura, where there's this aura around each and every one of us, which is unseen to the naked eye, but it also comes through in the form of energy. Okay, and when your soup that's in your pot of clay is, the pot of clay is well held, the mind, aka the pot of clay, is well held, what is within the mind is well held as well. So what is within the mind becomes a sustaining fluid or a sustaining thing, things that sustain you, things that give you life, things that make you strong, things that make you feel good, things that give you the ability to make others feel good and to inspire others. So that's what he means. Not mother, father, nor even other kinsmen may do that good to him. Far better than that, the mind well held may do to him. So first he presents in the second to last line of this chapter 40, or just chapter 3, the mind, the second to last verse of 42, he presents what the mind ill held will do. Okay, so the mind ill held may do worse to him than a foe to a foe, or a thief to a thief, or a hater to a hater. The mind ill held will do worse than that. So also creating this this relationship between out there and in here. So out there is like, sometimes seems like the real opposition and the real challenge, which it can be challenging. Other people can be challenging. But what Buddha is saying, what he's pointing to here, is that out there is the least of your challenge. It's really the challenge and the battle, the true struggle is in here. It's in your mind, in your being, in your body, in yourself. That's where the real challenge is, in that what a hater will do to a hater and a foe to a foe, far worse, the mind ill held will do to you, to him. Okay, and then far better, then he illuminates, or he mentions a positive relationships, mother, father, and kinsmen. So family members and friends. Like think of kinsmen as like chosen friends, chosen family members, your kinship, your kin. Okay. He mentions good relationships. Even though you can have the best relationship with these people, even better than your relationship with those people that you have great goodness, love with, even better than that, a mind well held will do even more good for you than even the best relationships that you have with your kinship, with your kin and your mother and father. So this is really putting emphasis on, and the chapter is called The Mind, so that makes a lot of sense, but this chapter and these last two stanzas are putting emphasis on the mind and how good it can be to develop a mind that is healthy, to hold your mind in good standing, and to foster your mind, and to allow your mind to grow, and allow your mind to evolve. Okay, so that's what I wanted to. It's 1857, almost 19 now. 19. That's a good place to pump the brakes. This is my interpretation of the Dhammapada, which is the Buddha's sayings, which he spoke to his followers, to his disciples, and they had recorded them down in verse format, in poem format. And I may have other videos. I really enjoy doing this type of discussion with the Dhammapada, especially. So you may see other videos. If you want to see other videos and you're watching this, you enjoy it, please drop me a comment. Let me know what you feel about the video in the comment section. And until next time, salam, salam, peace and grace.